Julie Alexander from Culture Incorporated. How are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you.
That's good. Thank you for joining me today. You are going to do some videos for us about company culture, and you're an expert on company culture. And what will people learn from those videos? Why is company culture or employee culture important?
I love it when people call me an expert, but I don't know if anybody is truly an expert because we're all learning as we go. But I have worked with so many companies on improving the employee experience, and that's through creating a great place to work. So the videos are looking at why company culture, why is it important? Why do people even need to pay any attention to it? And the reality is that you have a culture whether you like it or not. So it's either one that helps you or it's one that isn't helping you. So it makes sense to pay attention to it. And the results that you can get by paying attention to it are phenomenal.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll also look at what are some of the key elements that you need to consider when you are looking at your company culture. And some of the things that people immediately go is, oh, we have our values. And I talk about why it's important to be able to live those values and to be able to help your team articulate those values on a day-to-day basis, and how you can disseminate or spread that across the whole of your organization, so that you're not just looking at values and writing on a nice piece of paper and sticking them on the wall, but how do you actually bring them to life, and how do you make sure that there's consistency across your organization? Because if you want your team to be really innovative, but the policies and procedures, for instance, that you've got don't support that, then it's a nice to have culture. It's an aspirational one, but it's not one that you can live on a day-to-day basis.
Because it's so important. Like I said, that a lot of employees will say, "Oh, it's sucks to work here" or whatever, and they blame management. But everybody's responsible for culture, aren't they?
Absolutely. I mean, culture, they'll say, the fish rots from the head down.
Yes.
So, the senior executives are responsible for what the organization is going to focus on, but we all have a huge part to play in terms of the culture of the organization. So we need to be holding ourselves to the standards and expectations, hold ourselves responsible for living those values, and also calling out when other people aren't living the values, but also highlighting when they are. So it's not all around the negative side of it. Having meetings where you're calling someone out and going, that was such a great demonstration of whatever that value is. And it just elevates the conversation. So instead of talking about what someone has or hasn't done, maybe from a numbers perspective, you can start having conversations more around, how they live the values. And it becomes a much deeper conversation, and it helps people grow. And that's one of the main things that we want to do within organizations. But you're right, it's down to each individual to contribute to that great culture. You can't have a toxic culture unless people enable it and allow it to be toxic. So we all have a part to play.
I mean, I speak to principals of real estate offices all the time, and they'll say, that they've got an employee who, acts this way or acts that way. And there's nothing worse when as an employee or as the principals of an office, that you drive up and you see that person's car in the car park and you think, oh no, they're there. It's like you really want to try and have people that you have the same values and rules and all that sort of stuff, and people of similar like-mindedness as far as culture goes in your office, and to have policies around culture is, I think, something really important too. So you're going to be sort of deep diving into all of that. So it's
we only have a limited amount of time, so we can't really dive into exactly what you need to do for each thing. But you're right, when you've got a toxic culture, and when you've got a great one. And it's not around hiring an echo chamber so that you've got lots of me too's. It is about that diversity of thought, but commonality of values. So people who are on the same page as you in terms of what is important, or getting those people on the same page as you. And one of the things I always look at is when we have an employee, for instance, or a colleague who isn't maybe playing in the way that you would want them to play, it's easy to go, it's that person. But what you do need to do is look at and say, actually, is it the culture that is empowering that? If you have a very, very target-driven, do everything that you can to get a number, people will tread over other people's dead bodies to get to that number. But if you've got a great culture and you've put in those proper policies and procedures, but the policies and your values that say, yes, get the numbers, but be a good human being whilst you do it, it's a very different proposition.
Yeah, that's so relevant in real estate sales as well, very relevant, because it is a high end, monetary value in, and, there's a lot to gain and all that sort of thing. So it's very relevant in the real estate industry, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at culture, you can run onto a sports field and stare at the scoreboard, or you can go onto a pitch and actually look at your employees, your team, your players. And if you nurture your players, guess what? The scoreboard will go up. But if you just run onto the pitch and stare at the scoreboard, nothing's going to happen. So this is about making sure that you're looking after the people who are in your organization, because without people, there is no organization, there is no business.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We'll look forward to that, and that's in the real estate training community. So thank you very, very much for your time. And you're going to be giving us some PDFs and things like that as well, aren't you?
That's right. And people can get in touch with me. They can email me or just connect with me, and I can provide them with more information. I've actually I just thought of it, another PDF that I can share, which is all the questions to determine if you've got a great culture. So I could also share that one with people as well. So just it's a self-guided worksheet just to work through and to help you determine the sorts of things that you need to be doing.
Perfect. And I'll have all your details below as well. Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All good. Speak soon. Take care. Bye.